Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to say Call Allah Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rakaha Kwadash. That's all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles that labored in this truth before me and taught me this truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Hey, today I want to talk about, hey man, staying on your job, bro. And not giving the devil any leeway to overcome you by the flesh, right? So I'm gonna start here in the book of St. Matthew, chapter 26, and I'm gonna start at verse 40, and it says, "And he cometh unto the disciples and findeth them asleep, and he saith unto Peter, What, could ye not watch with me 1 hour?" Verse 41, "Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak," right? So this is a commandment right here. Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, is telling, hey, you got to watch and you got to pray, right? Let's go into this word watch, right? Let's see if it loads. So this word for watch in the Greek is Gregorio, Strong's G 1127, right? It says to watch, give strict attention to, be cautious, active, right? To take heed lest through remission or an idleness, some destructive calamity suddenly overtake one, right? Let's go to the root word, right? To arouse, cause to rise, right? To rise up, produce, cause to prepare, right? Of buildings, to rise up, construct, erect, right? So you got to be built up. You got to be active in this ministry and actively, protecting your spirit. How do you do that? I just told you, you got to watch and pray. Watch what's going on in the world and pray that you not fall into temptation, man. Because what it tells you in the book of Revelation, let's get it real quick. It talks about the hour of temptation. Let me see here. So I believe it's Revelation 3 and 10. It says, Revelation 3 and 10 says, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth," right? And we see, the devil, this man, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is really gearing up with this digital system, man. And if you're not watching, you're not going to understand what they're trying to get to. They're trying to get to that Revelation 13 and 16, man. That charagma, that mark of the beast that's going to, that you won't be able to buy or sell without, right? It's coming to a whole system based off slavery, right? A total control. Perilous times are coming. So you got to be watching and see what's going on, and as well as praying, right? You got to pray, man. That's a commandment to pray. All right, let me see what this word pray, right? It just gives you to offer prayers, to pray, That's Strong's G 4336, right? And if you look into that word, it's a compound word when you look at it in the Greek, right? So the first part of it is to take advantage of, and you gotta take advantage of the power that you have is the Most High God, right? To pray in His name, pray to Him in the name of His Son, right? And He will strengthen you, right? Because what does it say? It says the spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak, right? So when you're not watching, when you're not praying, you're allowing the flesh to become stronger than your spirit, right? And Satan, his power is in the flesh, right? Let's go to Matthew 4 for an example of how Lord and Savior handled this, right? So this is the book of Matthew 4 and verse 1. 4:1 says, Then was Yahushua led up of the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, right? So he's being tried, that temptation. We just said, hey, watch and pray, because the hour of temptation is going to come upon the earth, right? And this word tempted, let's see what it says. It's pirazo, Strong's G 3985. It says, to try whether a thing can be done, to attempt, to endeavor. Let's see. Let's see. To try or test one's faith, virtue, character by enticement of sin. Right. So hey man, he had to be tried to see if he was really who he's supposed to be. You know, what I mean, the son of the Most High. Right. He had to like it says in Hebrews 5:8, it says he had to learn obedience. Right. So he was led into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, by the wicked one. Right. The accuser. Right. Verse 2. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the son of the Most High, command that these stones be made bread. And see, it says the tempter came. First it says the devil, then it says the tempter. Right? Let me get this word for tempter, because in the book of James, it tells you that the Most High God tempts no man. Right? But they're tempted by their own flesh. Right? And this word for tempter is the same as tempt. Right? But you see, Yahweh Shai, he had no guile in him. Right, so that's why he committed no sin, because, like it says in James, the Most High tempts no man, but they're tempted. Paraphrasing, they're tempted by their own flesh, their own evil desires. Yahweh Shai didn't have any evil desires. He said, "My meat is to finish the work of him that sent me." Right. So we back here at Matthew 4:4 says, "But he answered and said, It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of the Most High." Right. And what's written, right? What's written, that's the words that proceed out of the mouth of the Most High, like these prophecies, these law, statutes, and commandments. That's what you should be leaning on in these times, man. You know, when Satan comes to tempt you, you're supposed to quote the scriptures. You're supposed to remember the scriptures, and that's how you move past things, right? Living by every word as written by that's been written by the holy prophets that spoke out the mouth of the Most High God, right? Let's get this in First Peter 5:8. Right, it says, I'll start at 6. It says, 1 Peter 5:6, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of the Most High, that he may exalt you in due time, right? So when you humble yourself, you come in a meek spirit, right? You're going to be exalted in due time, right? Actually, let me get this in Proverbs, right? Where is it at? Right, so this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 18 and verse 12. It says, before destruction, the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility, right? So, like it says right here, humble yourselves under the hand of the mighty God, right? So that you may be exalted in due time, right? You have to be humble. You have to show humility. You have to come in a meek spirit before you can be exalted, and not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? So verse 7 says, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. And how do you cast your cares upon the Most High? By praying in the name of his son, right? You know what I mean? Because it tells you in the book of Revelation, it talks about the prayers of the saints is like incense, right? Basically a sacrifice. You're giving a sacrifice to the Most High God when you pray. And when you read all through the law, hey, that sacrifice has to be a sweet savor unto the Most High God, right? Meaning it has to be prepared exactly how he commanded it. And as we present our bodies a living sacrifice, one of the sweet savors is that prayer, leaning on him, man. When the Most High God sees that, it pleases him. What does it say? When a man's ways please the Lord, it makes it even his enemies to be at peace with him. Right, so it's extremely important that we're watching and we're praying. Right, verse 8: be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may desire. Who he may devour. Salakia. Right, and in verse 9: whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. Right, so hey, there's people going through the same thing you going through, man. Hey, there's no excuses, bro. You know what I mean? You got to gird yourself up, gird up the loins of your mind and get past it, man. If you're dealing with things, hey, what it tell you? Fast and pray. You got to lean on the Most High. You got to lean on the Son, Yahweh Shai, right? And get through it, right? Because the promises are much greater than that short second of pleasure, right? Let's get this word sober. So back in here in 1 Peter 5:8, The word sober is nepho, right? To be sober, to be calm and collected in spirit, to be temperate, dispassionate, circumspect, right? Temperate. Hey man, you gotta have discipline, right? That's a fruit of the spirit, discipline, self-discipline, right? And it says also to be calm and collected in spirit. And how are you gonna be calm and collected? If you're watching, if you know what's going on, right? If the day of the Lord, it tells about the day of the Lord coming like a thief in the night. It's because you wasn't prepared, right? We read earlier, right? Because this word vigilant is Gregorio also. And when you get that word, the definition, what does it tell you? It says to take heed lest through remission and idleness some destructive calamity suddenly overtake one. Right? So if you're not being vigilant, if you're not being sober and watching, if you're not watching and praying, a calamity can suddenly overtake you, right? And then you just cause yourself to be destroyed, man, because you wasn't ready. You wasn't girded up in the spirit. You wasn't watching and praying, right? Let's get this in Revelation. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down upon you, unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. Right? So this devil, you know what I mean, Esau, Edom, he knows he has a short time, right? And he's being powered by the spiritual demon Satan. So they're ramping up their rhetoric, right? When you look at these advertisements for ICE, this recruitment, it's blatant white supremacist ideology being spread, right? And this right wing ideology being spread through this propaganda, right? And don't get it twisted. Both sides are white supremacists, the left and the right. You know what I mean? This whole system is based off of white supremacy, which is really Edomite supremacy, because these people aren't white. There's no such thing as a white person. They're red, right? You know, and they're coming down with great wrath, with persecution, and even their own people are getting it. You know, because when you look at these international bakers, these international baking families, their whole thing is complete control. They don't care if their own people suffer. They have no empathy for anybody, right? They just want a rich and a poor, a super elite and a poor. And if you don't comply to their system, you're going to be executed. You're going to be excommunicated and not allowed to participate in society, right? It's just like back in the day, a few years back with the corona, man. You know, and one day it changed, the normal changed, right? And everybody wanted everything to go back to normal. You know, right now you're living life, but when they really ramp it up, the new normal is gonna be like science fiction, man. It's gonna be dystopian, you know, and that's coming. That's why you gotta watch and pray, though. That's why you gotta gird up your spirit, man. Gird up the loins of your mind, right, and get prepared for that. You so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the true biblical Israelites, right? You got to get ready. So let's see here. This next verse is going to go to y'all that know you're Israelites, right? This is the book of St. Matthew, chapter 24, and verse. Let me see where I'm going to start. I start at verse 46. It says, "Blessed is the servant, is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing," right? And what are you supposed to be doing? The will of the Most High, right? You're supposed to be doing the will of the Lord, right? Keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments, you know? Keeping the faith, watching and praying, doing what he was commanding, keeping the sayings of the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, right? Verse 47, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods." But verse 48, "And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth," right? And who is the biggest hypocrite in the world? Man, it's Esau, Edom, the guy that says he's all for peace, but he'll go to a foreign country and put a bunch of soldiers on the street with M4s, right? It says, hey, if you think that the Lord is delaying his coming and you start doing whatever you want to go back into the world, right? You're gonna be destroyed with this fornicator Esau, right? You're gonna die here in America, right? You're not gonna be able to see those promises on the first go around. You're gonna have to know death by pain, man. You know? So it's imperative that you're watching and you're praying. You're staying girded up in the spirit, right? Because the Most High God, he's not gonna tarry. You know what I mean? You might think it's taking a long time, but there's much greater reward with serving the Lord than serving your flesh, right? You're gonna have you serve the flesh, you're gonna have, success for a small season, but how does a small season compare to everlasting and eternal life, man? It doesn't, man. A kingdom that shall not be destroyed, right? That's what we're looking forward to, right? Right. So let me get this, and I'm gonna get the book of Romans. It's Romans 13, and I'm gonna start at 11. Right. It says, "And that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed." Right. So let me get this word for sleep. Let's see what it says. See what this word for sleep says. All right. So it's hypnos, right? Hypnos. It says to sleep. It says spiritual torpor. Let's see what the root word says. By, under. But when you look at that hypnos, right? What is that? Like, it's a spell, man. And this place, America, Babylon the Great, has cast a spell over all the people, right? And a lot of people are waking up because you see this man, he's losing his wisdom. He's losing his power through enchantments because he's being exposed, right? It's hard to ignore all the bullshit he's doing. You know, when you talk about you're here for, our troops stand up for freedom, to protect our rights. Then you see our troops going into Venezuela and kidnapping the president. For what? And it's coming out. It's not even about the oil per se. It's about people trading outside of the dollar to get oil, right? So everything they do is for control. It's not about your freedoms, your rights. No, that's a lie. That's when that's why you're asleep. That's why there's people, people come here and do T acts, terror acts of terror, because America's over in their back, and they're going to other people's backyards and committing acts of terror, right? So now they want to come back here because they hate Satan, man. They hate Satan, who's ruling the earth right now, right? Who ruling in unrighteousness. All right, let me get this in verse 12. It says, "The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light," right? So, hey, we can't be in that spirit of, oh, well, the Lord's taking too long. He could be back 1,000 years from now, 100 years from now. Let me just go out and live my life, man. I got to hustle. I got to get mine. Let me exalt myself. Let me go on all these different platforms and not glorify Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Let me glorify myself. Nah, bro, we can't be in that spirit, man. We got to cast off the works of this world, or the works of darkness, man. You know what I mean? And submit ourselves to this truth, to this ministry, especially if you're a teacher. It's not your lot in this world to be glorified. The Most High will glorify you in due time if you practice meekness, if you practice humility. You come under the hand of the Most High God. He's going to exalt you. You just got to be patient, man. You just got to practice patience, man, and be patient. That's all it takes, man. Just be patient, brother. Stand still and wait for the Lord, right? Because the salvation, He's going to show it to you. He's going to show it to the ends of the world. Everyone's going to see your salvation, and then you shall be glorified. Don't try to be glorified on this side. Wait for the kingdom, man. Verse 13, "Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying." And let me read that. I'm going to read verse 13 in NLT. It says, "Because we belong to the day, we must live decent lives for all to see. Don't participate in the darkness of wild parties and drunkenness, or in sexual promiscuity and immoral living, or in quarreling and jealousy." Right? So, hey, we're pitting off the works of the world, man. We're not going to Diddy parties. We're not participating in orgies. We're not trying to have sex with a different woman every single day. and not making no type of commitment to that woman. No, we're not doing that. We got to put off those works, bro. And we got to look in the mirror and make sure, hey, man, we live in the right way, living in a way that honors Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Right, let me get this in 1 Thessalonians 5. Let me see where I'm going to start. I think I'm going to start at verse 6. Right, First Thessalonians 5, and I'll start at verse 5. It says, Ye all the children of light and the children of the day, we are not of the night or of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober, right? It's high time to wake up out of sleep, man. Watch and be sober, right? What it says in the NLT, it says, stay alert and be clear-headed, right? Verse 7, for they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us, who are of the day, be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and of love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation, right? And if you're watching, you can tell that, hey, this salvation is extremely clear. I mean, it's extremely close, right? But these are the things that are going to protect us, man. Faith, love, and the hope of salvation. And that's what we should be leaning on, right? We're not leaning on the success of this world, because the success of this world is vain. You know what I mean? Let's get this in James 4 and 7, right? This book of James 4 and 7 says, submit yourselves therefore to the Most High, resist the devil, and he shall flee. Right? Let's see what it says. Verse 8, draw nigh to the Most High, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded, right? And you can't be double-minded. You trying to focus on the Most High and the cares of this world. Nah, bro. You got business to take care of in this world, bro. But your focus should be on the Most High and seeking his righteousness. He will add all things to you, man. So you gotta you gotta get your mind right. Don't be double-minded. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. All right, let me get this in let me get two more scriptures. I'm gonna close it out, right? This is Ephesians 4 and 27, right? It says, neither give place to the devil. Yeah. This is talking about being angry, but I'll start at verse 26. It says, be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Neither give place to the devil, right? So you don't want to give the devil anything to work off of, man. And, really nothing comes from being angry. Nothing good comes from human anger, I should say, right? Except to be done in righteousness, right? You should have a righteous anger for the wickedness of this world. But, we can't be being overly emotional in our life, man. We understand that everything works for the good, right? For the purpose of the Most High God. And that's what we got to stand on. That should be our, that's where our faith should lie. Knowing that the Most High God, everything's going to be done in due course, right? And, at the end of the rainbow, at the end of the road, there's a great promise for us if we just endure. We can't be walking around angry all the time, man. We should be joyful in our heart. Why? Because we have another day to prophesy the downfall of this wicked kingdom, right? We're another day closer to seeing that Esau, Edom fall, and he getting the recompense that he's due, right? Getting the reward for his wicked works. And, if we keep the works, follow the Messiah all the way through, we're going to get a reward in a rod of iron to rule over him, right? Because that's what it says here in Revelations 2, right? Revelations 2, I'm going to start at 25. It says, but that which ye have already, hold fast till I come, right? Hold fast to this truth. Keeping the law, statutes, commandments, and the faith in Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, right? Worshiping the Heavenly Father, right? Verse 26, it says, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father, right? So that's what we're looking forward to, man. You got to stay steadfast, right? Keep your head, gird up your mind, right? Stay in the scriptures, man. Watch and pray. You got to be praying without ceasing, man. Right? Because let me get this in 2 Peter 3:13. It says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness, right? So we're trying to, keep these laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability so that we can rule in righteousness, right? And that's what we're looking for, a new heaven and a new earth, where we have these glorified bodies, we're perfect before the Most High God, and we can rule these nations and teach them the proper way to dwell upon this earth, man. And that's all I got to say, man. Hey, man, watch, pray. The spirit is one, but the flesh is weak. Don't let the flesh overcome you, brothers. Right? And I want to say, call Allah Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai. Until next time, Shalom.